All right, we are ready to go. So what we're going to be taking a look at today is we're going to continue our look at classical conditioning, some more basic phenomena, some more complexities, and we're going to use this. We're going to go back to advertising, and we are going to take a look at what I always found kind of curious in advertising, a curious move for advertisers to do, and that is the celebrity endorsement. So advertising companies pay large amounts of monies, huge sums of dollars to have celebrities endorse their products. So this is Jillian Jacobs, and she was endorsing the new Diet Coke. Coke has paid, well, just take a look at Coke for now. Coke has paid large sums of money to Taylor Swift to endorse their product. Beyonce has been a celebrity endorser for Coke, and this has been going on for a long time. So even back in the 70s, we have Raquel Welch here endorsing Coke. So the question is, why? Well, the question is, why do they do this? The short answer is because it's effective. It moves Coke products. It makes people buy Coke. But the psychological question is why? Why is it effective? What underlying learning process is at work here? What aspect of classical conditioning can account for the effectiveness of the celebrity endorsement? So it's not just Coke, it's also, we got Jennifer Aniston here for Aveeno. We have Matthew McConaughey endorsing Lincoln. And as a celebrity endorsement, I guess that, this one, it's all right. But anyways, it's a celebrity endorsement. Why does it work? So we're going to take a look at celebrity endorsements, and we're going to focus on somebody that, if you're a basketball fan, you're probably aware of, but a little bit before your time, and that is Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan was one of the highest paid celebrity endorsers of all time. So here he is through the years, going up and dunking his basketball there. And if you want to know just how amazing Michael Jordan was, first off, whenever there is a great new basketball player, they always wonder if he will be the next Michael Jordan. So is Kobe Bryant going to be the next Michael Jordan? Is LeBron James going to be the next Michael Jordan? So he's the standard against which all great players are measured at this time. And, he has his own shoes. That doesn't mean that he owns shoes. He has Air Jordans. And I think they're still making them. I know they were making them for like decades. And if you want to buy original Air Jordans on the resale market, get ready to not come to college next semester because you have to spend your tuition. They're massive. So so he was paid a lot for celebrity endorsements. And some of these celebrity endorsements, you might think, well, they make sense, right? So he's a basketball player, he needs shoes. You gotta have good shoes to play basketball. So the fact that he can do this in his Air Jordans, in his Nike shoes, that might indicate to us that those are high quality shoes. He can clearly pick any shoes in the world to wear. He chooses these, they must have high quality. So it makes sense that Nike would come to him and say, endorse our shoes. And he also endorsed Wheaties. So he was on the Wheaties box, and another Wheaties box, and more Wheaties boxes, and continuous Wheaties boxes. And once again, you can buy these on the secondary market for probably the cost of textbooks at this time. But anyways, this also kind of makes sense, right? So he's an athlete, he's got to keep his body in tip-top condition. Maybe Wheaties is a healthy breakfast option, that'll help you reach your physical goals. But he was endorsing everything. So he endorsed Hanes underwear. And, then the link between that and performance starts to get a little tenuous, right? You start looking at it and say, well, I guess you need comfortable underwear if you're going to be running around on the basketball court, so maybe that makes sense. He endorsed ballpark hot dogs, and I guarantee you no serious athlete has this as a staple of their diet. He endorsed Coca-Cola, and once again, no serious athlete is going to be drinking tons of Coca-Cola. And he endorsed everything. He endorsed batteries, and there's no possible connection between Rayovac batteries in his performance on the court. And just to give you a little way back playback, he endorsed MCI, which used to do long distance telephone services back when you had to pay extra for long distance telephones. So here's a commercial that he did way back when. And again, why?
Tweety, I really don't think you guys are relatives.
I do.
MCI pipes and senders helps me keep up with my space team buddies. He doesn't even have feathers.
But we have the same last name.
It's just 5 cents a minute, every Sunday. Loan low rates all week long.
That used to be a great deal. Imagine being able to talk to your family in another state for only 5 cents a minute on Sundays of all days.
But just because you're Larry Bird and you're Tweety Bird doesn't mean you're related.
I don't know. We look an awful lot alike.
Call 1-800-SUNDAYS to become an MCI customer.
All right, so that was him celebrity endorsing MCI. So the question is why? Why were they paying him millions of dollars to endorse these products? And again, we're going to tie this into classical conditioning, specifically higher order conditioning. And we're also going to take a look at higher order conditioning and use it to answer another mystery. And that mystery has to do with trailers that are designed for children's movies. So one of the ones that initially grabbed my attention on this was for the movie Penguins of Madagascar. Is everybody familiar with the Madagascar franchise? So this was a spin-off movie centering on these 4 highly skilled penguins. So let's take a look at this trailer here, and we'll see. We'll just kind of take a look at it and see if you can notice anything a little weird.
When the world needs safety, it will take the most elite team on Earth. Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private.
We're the elitists of the elite. Ha-ha! Oh, amen.
And the creators of Madagascar.
Okay, boys, this is it. The mission we've been preparing for our entire lives.
Remain calm, penguins. You are now under the protection of the North Wind.
Private, dibble me. We're not going anywhere with you. We don't even know who the heck you are.
The North Wind is an elite undercover interspecies. An elite undercover interspecies task force dedicated to dedicated to helping animals cut themselves.
Skipper, we've got to be 5 miles up. That pretty much limits our options.
I make my own options. Brilliant move, Skipper. But now we seem to be outside the plane. Well, kind of got caught up in the moment. Well, hindsight's 2020.
Oh, why don't we catch that plane?
Bird strike, log in.
DreamWorks Penguins of Madagascar.
Now we're talking. Let's get to work. 400 meters. 300 meters. Fake American Kowalski. Sorry, sir. 218 yards. Okay, then. It's clear what we need to do next.
That feels right.
All right, so that was the trailer, and you can see that in terms of promoting a children's movie to children, it's going to be a very effective trailer. So what we talked about before in classical conditioning, where you pair a neutral stimulus, maybe the penguins, maybe this is the first time the child is seeing the penguins, you pair it with the unconditioned stimulus, mostly of fun shenanigans, crazy sort of mix-em-ups and good times, and you change that neutral stimulus of the penguins into a conditioned stimulus. But we're gonna take a look at 3 things that were weird in this trailer. 2 of them, well, did anybody notice something that might have seemed not for children? So there was 2 song choices that were not for kids. There were 2 song choices, one a very adult song, and then 2 a song that was from the 80s, which you would not expect children to be listening to. And then Agent Classified, the wolf, it was voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. And they paid Benedict Cumberbatch a lot of money, and I don't know a 5 to 6 to 8-year-old child at that time who was watching Sherlock and was a fan of Benedict Cumberbatch. So this was before Doctor Strange, but it was a very effective commercial for children. And just as an aside, my daughter, who's 8 right now, would not eat Cheetos unless I said, the North Wind is an elite undercut. She'd be like, the North Wind. So it's fun for kids, but why those distinctly non-children choices? We're going to see why when we take a look again at higher order conditioning. So that is the order of the day for today's class. So we are going to take a look at those extensions of classical conditioning, specifically higher order conditioning, to answer why are celebrity endorsements effective, why do we care, what Taylor Swift drinks, why was Michael Jordan paid all this money to endorse batteries. And then we're going to take a look at the design of trailers for children's movies and why some very adult choices are put into these particular trailers. All right, so let's start with the kind of textbook example of this, the standard look at higher order conditioning. So once again, we have our dog hooked up to the salivation tracker right there. And before conditioning, food, your unconditioned stimulus, causes salivation, your unconditioned response. Before conditioning, a bell is a neutral stimulus, and that bell causes no salivation, no target response. And then what's done is the bell is presented, and then the food is presented. So the bell and food are presented in sequence here. The neutral stimulus, and then the unconditioned stimulus, and that causes, the unconditioned stimulus causes the unconditioned response of salivation in this case. And then after conditioning trials, learning occurs when that bell turns from a neutral stimulus into a conditioned stimulus. And once again, we have evidence that this is now a new stimulus, is a conditioned stimulus, because now if we present the bell alone, without the food, the bell now causes the conditioned response of salivation. So it's gone from a neutral stimulus to a conditioned stimulus. That's the basic principles of classical conditioning. So what we have now, though, is we have an extension to that, which is higher order conditioning. And in higher order conditioning, that bell, the basic part of higher order conditioning, is that once you have a neutral stimulus that changed into a conditioned stimulus, you can then use that conditioned stimulus to change a second neutral stimulus into a conditioned stimulus. So it's almost like you can use a conditioned stimulus to fill in for an unconditioned stimulus. So that bell now becomes the primary conditioned stimulus, the CS1. So that means it is the one that actually got conditioned to a unconditioned stimulus. So that's the primary conditioned stimulus. And now what you can do is you can do higher order conditioning. You can now condition a secondary conditioned stimulus. So let's say that we've got to the point where we ring the bell and the dog salivates. That bell is now a conditioned stimulus. And let's say that we have a light. So we have a light that we can flash, and that light causes no salivation. We show it to the dog, no target behavior. We turn it on, no target behavior. The light is a neutral stimulus. You can see there, secondary neutral stimulus. So the light's a neutral stimulus, doesn't cause the target response. And then what we can do is through the process of higher order conditioning, we pair this neutral stimulus, which is the light, but instead of pairing it with an unconditioned stimulus, we pair it now with the bell. We pair it with a conditioned stimulus. that bell, because it's been changed into a conditioned stimulus, now causes salivation, which is the conditioned response. And during training, after repeated presentations of these two stimuli together, that light is going to change from a neutral stimulus into a conditioned stimulus. And that is higher order conditioning. And we know that the light has now changed into a conditioned stimulus because, once again, if we now present the light alone, the light by itself will cause the conditioned response, which is salivation. So this is a way to condition a change of stimulus from a neutral stimulus to a conditioned stimulus without ever presenting it with an unconditioned stimulus. So the light was never paired with food, and yet still we were able to change that light from a neutral stimulus to a conditioned stimulus, and now the light on its own causes the conditioned response of salivation. So that's the basic idea of higher order conditioning. Any questions on that? All right. So what does that have to do with celebrity endorsements? What does that have to do with just about every corporation paying Michael Jordan millions of dollars to promote their products? Why was an ad campaign where we have Michael Jordan endorsing Rayovac? You know, he's not an engineer. He didn't build these batteries. He's not a scientist. He has no ability to comment on their characteristics, and yet this was an effective advertisement, much like many celebrity endorsements. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Let's take a look at why these celebrity endorsements continue to be effective. So the first premise we're going to put forward is the idea that success is an unconditioned stimulus, and success leads to positive emotions, which is the unconditioned response. So once again, we are working under the notion that positive emotions are what drive consumer behavior. Feeling good about a product is what drives consumer behavior. So what we want to do is we want to get this target behavior to be associated with a particular product. So we're going to start off with the idea that success, the unconditioned stimulus, leads to positive emotion, the unconditioned response. And this is pretty much true. I would say it's unless somebody's your enemy, we'll talk about this in just a bit, but unless somebody's your enemy, seeing somebody succeed usually makes you feel better, right? Nobody is, well, hopefully, none of us have ever watched a TV program where they're telling the story of a person who, you know, just had like hardships. They lost their family when they were very young. Their house was torn down in a tornado. But they persevered and they put themselves through college, and now they're, a surgeon that is highly successful and giving back to their community. Usually, people don't hear a story like that and say to themselves, "Oh, well, that makes me feel horrible." Right? Usually they hear a story like that and they're like, wow, what an inspiration, what a great feeling, this is great, I love this. This is why people watch Olympics. This is why people like triumphant movies instead of tragedies, right? This is the premise we're working with. So seeing success, not your success, but actually seeing success is an unconditioned stimulus that leads to the unconditioned response of you feeling positive emotions. All right. Now let's talk about Michael Jordan. Back when Michael Jordan first started playing basketball, he was a neutral stimulus. At that point, if somebody came up to you or came up to the average individual and said, "What do you think about Michael Jordan?" their answer would have been Michael who, right? They didn't know who Michael Jordan was. So at this point, Michael Jordan was our primary neutral stimulus, and he led to no emotions. Right? You saw if somebody said, "Hey, here's a picture of Michael Jordan. What do you think of him?" You'd probably say, "Well, I don't know. Looks like an okay guy. I guess I don't really like him. I don't have any negative feelings about him. He's a neutral stimulus. I don't care about him, either positively or negatively." So that's when he's a neutral stimulus. So then what happens is Michael Jordan starts playing basketball. And he starts playing for the Chicago Bulls. and he's televised on TV. And what happens is, because he is the player that he is, that neutral stimulus of Michael Jordan is being presented, and that is being followed by the unconditioned stimulus of success. Him dunking on people, him making incredible passes, him winning games, him winning championships, and that leads to the positive emotions, the unconditioned response. So just to get a taste of what this conditioning would be like, this link is available. So all these links are now available in the lecture notes. They're in the notes section. And this is the top 50 all-time plays according to this YouTuber for Michael Jordan. We're just going to pick it up at number 30. We're not going to watch all 30. This is just give you a taste of the kind of presentations followed by success. All right, so there's Michael Jordan. There's the neutral stimulus, making an incredible shot. There's your success. Unconditioned response of, oh my goodness, wow, positive emotions. All right, neutral stimulus, Michael Jordan, dunking on everybody. Success causes the, oh my goodness, did you see that? Positive emotions. Once again, neutral stimulus. Once again, big time success. Once again, unconditioned response of that positive emotion. All right, so, and if you're wondering just how amazing he was, once again, that was what, number 27? There's like 26 more to go. We're not even in the top 10. So just to give you an idea of what he was like when he was playing. The key point here is that he was a neutral stimulus, but he was a great player. This is why only great players typically get endorsements. He was a great player that had a lot of success. That success led to positive emotions, which is the unconditioned response. So every single time you saw Michael Jordan do this, or you saw Michael Jordan do this, or you saw Michael Jordan do this, then he was being a neutral stimulus paired with success that caused the unconditioned response of positive emotion. So what happens? Well, after watching him game after game after game after game, Michael Jordan went from being that neutral stimulus to a conditioned stimulus. So Michael Jordan changed from that neutral stimulus to a conditioned stimulus because you saw Michael Jordan, he usually had success. That leads to the positive emotion, the unconditioned response. And now, at this point, after his rookie season, in his second year, in his third year, at this point, if you went up to somebody and you said, here's a picture of Michael Jordan, what do you think of this guy? They would usually have very positive emotions. They would usually be like, oh yeah, Michael Jordan, that's my man, Michael Jordan, he took us all the way to the championships this year, especially if you were living in Chicago. But you had positive feelings towards Michael Jordan. If you saw him, you're like, yes, he's an amazing player, what a skill, very exciting. I love Sunday, NBA on NBC on Sundays. Wow, I don't miss it. Michael Jordan gives you those positive emotions. So he is now a conditioned stimulus that causes the conditioned response of positive emotions. Any questions so far? Okay. So now that he has developed into this conditioned stimulus, now he's able to be used for higher order conditioning. Now is when he can start to do those celebrity endorsements. Because now if you're Rayovac batteries and you're a neutral stimulus, right? So you show somebody a picture of Rayovac batteries and you ask them what do you think about these batteries? And if they've never seen Rayovac before, they'll say, maybe good, maybe bad, I don't know. I am neutral to Rayovac batteries. So you have your product, which is a neutral stimulus, causes no emotions, doesn't cause a target behavior, and then what do? You start pairing it with Michael Jordan. So you present the product, which is a neutral stimulus, right there in your ad, and then you present Michael Jordan, the conditioned stimulus, right there in your ad. That conditioned stimulus causes the positive emotions, the conditioned response, and then through repeated trials, through higher order conditioning, you are able to change your product from a neutral stimulus into a conditioned stimulus. And we know it's a conditioned stimulus because now that conditioned stimulus will cause positive emotions. So this is, again, very important. This is what drives your purchasing decisions. So we like to, again, think that rationality drives our purchasing decisions. It does not. Positive emotions drive our purchasing decisions. And when somebody walks up to a battery display, if you're checking out of Walmart and you're at that impulse center and they have the different batteries just sitting there waiting for you and you're like, oh, I need some AA batteries. Which one should I buy? You see Energizer, you're like, You see Duracell, you're like, You see Rayovac and you're like, I think Rayovac. For some reason, I got a positive emotional response. Well, you don't say it like that, but for some reasons, I feel good about Rayovac. You pick up Rayovac, you buy the product, and it's because of the celebrity endorsement. All right, so any questions about celebrity endorsements and how they work? All right, so let's see if we can do a little bit of extension here and a little bit of extra delving into this and maybe bringing back some of the stuff we've learned before. So the first thing that I will I'll ask is, will this actually work for everyone? What is the celebrity endorsement? What is the celebrity endorsement predicated on? What is required for that?
People like basketball.
People like basketball, but Michael Jordan was not an effective celebrity endorser for everybody that liked basketball. In fact, I would say he was the worst for certain people that watched basketball. Yep.
Interest in like the team that he was on versus like if they didn't like the team.
Exactly. So Michael Jordan, the whole premise of the celebrity endorsement is that his face leads to positive emotions. So if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, or if you're just in general a basketball fan, then you are very highly likely to enjoy Michael Jordan. His face was very highly likely to cause positive emotions. So he could be a conditioned stimulus that caused the conditioned response of positive emotions. But if you were a New York Knicks fan, or you were a Cleveland Cavalier fan, and you had to watch your team get eliminated from the playoffs over and over and over again by Michael Jordan, who literally won 3 championships in a row, and then went away, and then came back and just won another 3 in a row. I mean, that's how dominant he was. So if you were a Knicks fan, and you kept watching Michael Jordan dunking on your favorite players, you kept watching him eliminate your players, then Michael Jordan's face did not lead to the conditioned response of positive emotions. Michael Jordan actually probably became a conditioned response for negative emotions, for frustration, for feelings of anger. And in that case, we would expect probably dips in sales of Rayovac batteries in New York and in Cleveland. So it will work for most people, but you have to have a positive emotion evoked by that particular celebrity. All right, so next question. These are all old advertisements. Michael Jordan is currently not promoting a lot of products anymore. So why is arguably the greatest NBA player of all time, why is he no longer being paid tons of money by battery companies? Why is he no longer being paid tons of money by Wheaties? And I'll give you a hint. He has gone through a process that has occurred that we mentioned earlier. Extinction. So, can you elaborate on that?
So he's not being presented as often anymore because he's not playing anymore.
Exactly. So notice that in these commercials here, in these celebrity endorsements, we have the product which has now become a conditioned stimulus. We have Michael Jordan, which is a conditioned stimulus. Michael Jordan is causing the positive emotion of the conditioned response, which is a positive emotion. What aspect of classical conditioning is missing of the sort of basic procedure? So in the basic setup, we have the conditioned stimulus that is followed by the unconditioned stimulus. What's missing here is the unconditioned stimulus, right? There's no images of him playing basketball. There's no images of him having massive success in these commercials. So what happens is every single presentation of this higher order conditioning procedure is presenting Michael Jordan, this conditioned stimulus, with no unconditioned stimulus. And if you present a conditioned stimulus in the absence of the unconditioned stimulus, you might recall that's extinction. And what that means is that the power of your conditioned stimulus to cause your conditioned response will decrease every single time these ads are used. So during Michael Jordan's playing time, this didn't matter because for all the ads that were running, which were putting his power as a conditioned stimulus and lowering his power as a conditioned stimulus, lowering his ability to cause the conditioned response of positive emotions, every time an ad like this was shown, it lowered his ability to cause the conditioned response of positive emotions. That wasn't a problem when he was playing because come Sunday afternoon, he was presented, once again, here's Michael Jordan. Once again, here's a thunderous dunk, success, the unconditioned stimulus. Once again, you get that positive emotion. So he went through extinction, and then when he was playing, he got classically conditioned. Once again, the conditioned stimulus was strengthened. He could still cause that conditioned response. Once he retired, every single ad that was shown was basically a conditioned stimulus, followed by Michael Jordan, the primary conditioned stimulus, leading to a positive emotion, the conditioned response. But notice again, no unconditioned stimulus, and his power as a celebrity endorser just went down and down and down. So he's still, if you ask people, he's still considered one of, if not the greatest player of all time. He is still highly regarded, but he just doesn't have that conditioned stimulus status where he causes that positive emotion, that conditioned response. And that's why you don't see him endorsing products anymore. And then the last thing that I'll mention, and this is kind of tied in to what we talked about before, this breakdown here and the ability of your conditioned stimulus to cause the conditioned response of positive emotion is exactly why scandals will destroy a person's conditioned stimulus. It will destroy their celebrity endorsements because their conditioned stimulus no longer leads to the positive emotion, the conditioned response. And I don't think any example of this was greater than Tiger Woods. So when Tiger Woods had his infidelity scandal, prior to that, Tiger Woods was a conditioned stimulus that was paired with tons of success. So if he didn't get derailed for that period of time, he would have blown away every single golfing record imaginable. But he was having tons of success. That led to a positive emotion. Everybody loved Tiger Woods. You could put Tiger Woods on any product. You take a look at it, and it'd be like conditioned stimulus, Tiger Woods, product, neutral stimulus, positive emotion, the conditioned response. Once that occurred, his ability as a celebrity endorser decreased. That's why companies dropped him. So he lost millions of dollars, like overnight, where companies were like, well, we're no longer going to endorse him. And when this happens, when a scandal like this erupts, what's the usual line that companies will say?
Different direction.
They'll talk about a different direction. They'll usually talk about how their actions do not line up with this company's values. So we're a family-oriented company. We have, certain values, and we don't feel that Tiger Woods lines up with our company's values anymore. they don't care. They're trying to move products, right? They don't care about somebody whether or not they have their values. What they're basically saying is Tiger Woods has lost his ability as a conditioned stimulus to be associated with our product and cause the conditioned response. He's no longer effective in this situation, and that's why celebrity endorsements go down. He wasn't a worse player at that time, so he was still having that success, but his ability as a conditioned stimulus to cause that positive emotion, that decreased. All right, so any questions on higher order conditioning in general and how it explains why celebrity endorsements are effective? All right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the design of Penguins of Madagascar, specifically the trailer. And we're going to take a look at how higher order conditioning is being used in here to promote what is a children's movie. So let's be very clear. This is a completely geared at children's movie. And in the trailer, there was two songs that were prominently featured. The first song was from Nerd, No One Ever Really Dies. This was, I don't know if they're still together, but that's Pharrell before he was happy. And anyways, the song that they used was a big hit. It came out in 2001. The song they used in the trailer is called Lap Dance. So that's your first clue that maybe this is not intended for a child's audience. So we'll take a look at the lyrics. So the lyrics start off with "I'm an outlaw." So we heard that one in the actual trailer. I'm an outlaw. And you might think to yourself, well, the Penguins, they're kind of outlaws. They save the world. They're outside of the scope of normal channels. All right, so that makes sense. Quick on the draw. It's like, yes, they are very quick. They're very effective. They are good at what they do. They're the elitist of the elitist. Something you've never seen before. I've never seen Penguins as part of an elite group before either. And dare a Mickey Ficky to come in my face. And then all of a sudden you see it goes off the rails. These are the lyrics. All right, so it keeps going. So the chorus comes up and it goes, "Ooh, baby, you want me? Well, you can get this lap dance here for free." And then one of the raps comes out and it goes, "Chicks nickname me Pilot, they get high off my D. I take them to my home, they call it the cockpit. Time for takeoff, the pennies they drop quick. Now that's first class F and ain't that some fly S." Not for kids. All right, so this is not for children at all. What's it doing in this film? Why did they choose this? So they chose it for a very good reason. So again, completely wrong, but I'll give you a clue. Look at that year. That was 2001. This movie came out 2015, I think is when it came out. So we got 2001, and the movie came out 2015-ish. So that was one of the choices. The other choice that was in there that was featured prominently was Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins. And this is a song that came out even earlier, right? So I have never met an 8-year-old child who's, first off, who was into Kenny Loggins. He's a very sort of like 1980s of that period type of artist. So I've rarely ever met a child who was rocking Kenny Loggins, their playlist, and I very rarely met a child with responsible parents who was allowed to listen to lap dance. So what are both of these songs doing in this Penguins trailer? Does anybody have an idea? Does anybody have a speculation of what was going on? Targeting the parents. So did anybody else think of that? Yes. So these songs were included in this specifically to target two sets of parents. So two sets of parents were targeted here. And again, the clues come from the fact that Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone, that was released in 1986. Lap Dance was released in 2011. Penguins of Madagascar, again, I believe 2015-ish. So why is it important to appeal to the parents? It's important to appeal to the parents in this trailer as well because the bottom line is somebody has to take these kids to this movie. So 2 people need to be convinced in this trailer. Number 1, the children need to be convinced that they're going to have a good time going to the movies. Number 2, the parents need to be convinced. They need to make that choice of, yes, I will take you to go see Penguins. So let's take a look at the trailer first, and we'll take a look at how it appeals to the children. So this is not higher order conditioning. This is just your straight, regular conditioning. So at the beginning, once again, we have that idea that if you see fun, that's the unconditioned stimulus. That causes the positive emotion, the unconditioned response. So that's why, once again, this trailer was filled with, fun shenanigans and other instances. All right, so we have that. Let's say that these children here have never seen the penguins. They're oblivious to what the penguins are. Penguins are a neutral stimulus. They cause no emotion. They don't want to go see the movie. They don't want to avoid it. They couldn't really care. Penguins is a neutral stimulus. In that trailer, what is repeatedly done is the penguins are paired with images of fun. So the penguins are paired with, secret handshakes and hand slapping and hey nows, right? The penguins are paired with the Cheetos and interrupting Agent Classified of the North Wind. The penguins are paired with the bouncy house, right? What child doesn't love a bouncy house? So the penguins are continually shown having a fun time, leads to the positive emotion, the unconditioned response. So fun, the unconditioned stimulus causes the unconditioned response. After watching this trailer multiple times, the penguins become a conditioned stimulus, and we know they're a conditioned stimulus because the penguins on their own will cause the conditioned response of the positive emotions. So what this means is that when you are, let's say, at the theater, let's say that that the parents are like, well, we'll go out and we'll see a movie. Let's go to the theaters, let's see what's playing. When they get to that theater, there's going to be posters for a number of different movies. And the children are going to see the poster for the penguins. And they're going to say, ooh, once again, they won't actually say this, but they'll say, oh my, I have a positive response to that poster. I want to see that. I want to purchase that movie. I want to go see Penguins. Take me to see Penguins, take me to see Penguins, take me to see Penguins. Because Penguins now is a conditioned response for them that causes that positive emotion. Penguins is a conditioned stimulus, causes the positive emotion of the conditioned response. So that's just your everyday first stage conditioning. One more person has to be convinced in order to do this, in order for those movie tickets to be bought, and that is the parents. So the parents have to be convinced. The parents have to take a look at that poster and say, yeah, I'll take you to go see that film. And notice that even in the film, there's a lot of things that might not be fun for parents. So something happens to a lot of adults as they grow older, and some things just aren't as much fun anymore. So I can imagine a parent watching that trailer going, well, you shouldn't interrupt a person when they're explaining their organization. That penguin's rude. How dare he eat Cheetos, and interrupt this person? Or, them falling off out of the airplane, and the parent might be like, well, that's dangerous. I don't want my children, watching these dangerous things. So those things that worked for the children, probably not going to work for these parents. So what do? Well, we still need to somehow cause that positive emotion. But as I mentioned, it's not the fun scenes in the trailer, because that might actually work against them wanting to take their children to see this movie. It's not fun for parents, or maybe it's not fun for parents. We can't speak for all parents. All right, so what do they do for this? Well, if this was you in the 80s, right? So if this was you in the 80s, you were listening to Kenny Loggins, and 40 years later, which is when the movie came out, if you were 18, 19, 20-ish, when you were partying to Kenny Loggins, 40 years later, you're in your 60s. Chances are you might be a grandparent with children the correct age. So what they do is they still want to cause those positive emotions, And they take advantage of the fact that you have already been conditioned to enjoy Kenny Loggins and Danger Zone. So they have the fun, you know, we still work the same way. Everybody works the same way. You see fun, unconditioned stimulus, you're going to have a positive emotion. Let's say that Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone wasn't the pop classic that it was, the super catchy song that it was. Let's say that it had no positive emotions to it. It's a neutral stimulus. What happens is that when you're younger, that's usually when, and it's kind of sad but true, but that's usually when you get to go out more, you get to party more, you get to have more important experiences, more first-time experiences. You basically can go through a time when this becomes, and a lot of people will say this about one of their favorite songs, this becomes the soundtrack of your life. This is your song of the summer, right? We have these things. It's like, oh man, that's the song of the summer. What do you mean? You mean that, well, when I went to the beach, that song was playing. I had a great time and the song was there. When I went to that barbecue party, that song was playing. I had a great time, that song was there. When I went to the fireworks display, that song was playing. I had a great time, that song was there. That song was there. You had a great time. You had that positive emotion. That changes this song into a conditioned stimulus. So now when you hear that song, and again, let's just say, let's not even take a look at the quality of the song, that it's an actual, pop masterpiece. But let's just say, just because it's been associated with all those good times that these people were having back in 1985, it turns into a conditioned stimulus. And now that song, on its own, leads to the positive emotions, leads to that conditioned response. So what we can do now, is we can use that song in higher order conditioning and in the trailer to appeal to the grandparents who see the penguins and they're like, who are these penguins? The penguins are a neutral stimulus. To change their view of the penguins from a neutral stimulus that causes no emotion into a conditioned stimulus that causes positive emotion, they will pair the penguins with Danger Zone, which to these individuals is a conditioned stimulus that causes positive emotion. So Danger Zone is a conditioned stimulus, causes the conditioned response. Through repeated viewings of this trailer, penguins for the grandparents changes into a second order conditioned stimulus. And we know it's a second order conditioned stimulus because when they're at the theater and their grandkids are saying, Grandpa, can we see penguins? Can we see penguins? They take a look at the penguins poster and they think to themselves and they say, you know what? I kind of feel good about that movie. I'm feeling positive emotions. Let's go buy the tickets. So that's why Danger Zone was placed in there to help the grandparents change the penguins from a neutral stimulus through pairing with that song so that penguins now becomes a conditioned stimulus. All right, so that was for the grandparents. This trailer is amazing because it's got everybody covered. So if you are in your 20s having a great time in 1985, you're in your 60s right now, you're probably going to be a grandparent if you have children. So that's if that was you. And that's why Danger Zone is in here. Lap Dance is in there for the parents. Because if this was you in 2001 and you're in your 20s, when this movie came out, you were in your mid-30s, you were in your early 40s, you were the parents of those small children. So Lap Dance was a big hit. It was being played just about everywhere at that time. So once again, you go to the beach, Lap Dance is there. You go to the barbecue, Lap Dance is there. You go to Lollapalooza, if anybody remembers that, Nerd was there, Lap Dance was there. So Kenny Loggins for the grandparents, Lap Dance was for the parents. And once again, you have the neutral stimulus of penguins. You got the song Lap Dance in the trailer, causes the positive emotion because it's a conditioned stimulus, and that's why that was included. And again, totally inappropriate. Like we saw how inappropriate the lyrics were. It was chosen because of that ability that it had as a conditioned stimulus. All right, so any questions on that? Incidentally, this higher order conditioning And this changing of songs into conditioned stimuli at certain periods of time, it's way easier at certain periods of time in your life because you oftentimes more often have these fun experiences when, for example, music is playing at those periods in your life. I remember being able to listen to an entire album uninterrupted. These days I'll be lucky if I get 4 songs in before I have to do something. So different times in people's lives, you have different situations. That's one of the reasons why nostalgia is so strong. People who say that, oh, the music sucks today, everything sounds the same, none of it is any good. But back in my day, oh my gosh, that music was amazing. No, it wasn't. Music today is amazing. Music back then was amazing. Your life was more amazing back then, let's face it. And that got associated with the music. So it also helps to explain that idea of nostalgia. All right, so we've solved 2 mysteries in the trailer of Penguins of Madagascar. What was Lap Dance doing in there? What was Danger Zone doing in there? Lap Dance, conditioned stimulus for the parents. Danger Zone, conditioned stimulus for the grandparents. The last mystery is what was Benedict Cumberbatch doing in this trailer? And this is even more confusing because does anybody know one of the words that Benedict Cumberbatch can't actually say? All right. Yeah. He narrated a documentary. So this is Benedict Cumberbatch. This is him trying to say penguins when he was narrating a documentary.
It's penguins. Crested penguins. Parent penguin heading home. So why are these woodlands so attractive to penguins?
All right, so this is the guy that they paid a lot of money to voice this movie. He got it out of his system. He could say penguins in the movie, but there was no reason for them to say, oh, he's going to be highly skilled at doing this because listen to him say penguins. So why was he in this movie? It was because he appealed to a certain demographic. It was because he appealed to the parents. So once again, if you were at that time, his big show at the time was Sherlock, and that was just exploding. He was becoming a star. This is pre-Doctor Strange. That was exploding. He was becoming a star. That's not a show for children. It was a show for adults. And if you were an adult and you were watching that show, you saw Benedict Cumberbatch solving the mystery. He played Sherlock Holmes. He didn't lose. You saw Benedict Cumberbatch solve the mystery. You saw Benedict Cumberbatch have success. You heard his voice with success. So his voice went from being a neutral stimulus to being a conditioned stimulus. So hiring him as the voice of Agent Classified, the Wolf, once again, you were able to use that conditioned stimulus of his voice causing the conditioned response of positive emotion and put it in a trailer, making it more likely that he would that the parents, again, would go and choose this movie. So again, Benedict Cumberbatch didn't appeal to the kids, right? I don't know a single child that was talking about how Benedict Cumberbatch broke the internet when this came out. But for the parents, yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch, conditioned stimulus led to positive emotions, and that's why he was included, even though he can't say penguins. All right, any final questions on higher order conditioning? All right, so the last thing we're going to do is just it's a kind of public service announcement, because we're going to be moving on to like other examples in the coming weeks. And the last thing that I want anybody to walk out of here with is the idea that because you understand classical conditioning, higher order conditioning, you are now somehow immune to its effects. So nothing could be further from the truth. You can analyze the heck out of Penguins of Madagascar, but if you're in your 40s, in your mid 40s, when you hear lap dance, you're still going to be bobbing your head and saying, "Oh yeah." So just to give you kind of proof of this, I'm going to show you two commercials from one last time with Michael Jordan. And these commercials are wonderfully made because not only do they classically condition you to want to buy or to have positive emotions toward the Nike product, they literally tell you, they literally try to uncondition you rationally. You'll see what I mean. This was we should see two commercials that were directed by Spike Lee. So that's Spike Lee right there. So let's take a look at the two of them. And once again, we'll see how classical conditioning is being put in there and just cannot be fought with rational explanations.
Yo, Mars Blackman here with my main man, Michael Jordan. Yo, Mike, what makes you the best player in the universe? Is it the vicious stunts?
No, Mars.
Is it the haircut?
No, Mars.
Is it the shoes?
No, Mars.
Is it the extra long shorts?
No, Mars.
Is the shoes it, right?
Nah.
All right, so let's go back there real quick. Notice the main thing they're trying to sell here is the shoes. And notice in this commercial how many times they go, is it the shoes? Neutral stimulus. And then Michael Jordan, no Mars. Is it the shoes? Neutral stimulus. And then Michael Jordan, no Mars. They make sure to go from the shoes to Michael Jordan almost every single time. And that is your classical conditioning. Michael Jordan, the conditioned stimulus, causing the conditioned response of positive emotion. You're feeling better for Nike shoes.
Is it the shoes?
No, Mars.
Is it the extra long shorts?
No, Mars.
Is the shoes it, right?
Nah.
Is it the short socks?
No, Mars.
Money, it's gotta be the shoes! Shoes! You sure it's not the shoes?
Sure.
What about the shoes?
No, Mars.
What?
All right, so that commercial is amazing because he is literally telling you the shoes will do nothing, right? This entire commercial is him saying, look, all the stuff that I do, it's literally not the shoes. So any rational person, well, not rational person, if rational thinking drove your purchasing decisions, you would take a look at this commercial and you would say, oh, thank you, Michael Jordan. I'm not buying those shoes because I would love to be able to play like you, but it's not, the shoes won't do it, so thank you for saving me, that money. It doesn't matter. This commercial, even if they're telling you, is it the shoes? No. Is it the socks? No. Is it the shorts? No. Is it the shoes? No. Are you sure it's not the shoes? Yeah, I'm sure it's not the shoes. Even though they tell you that over and over and over again, all you're seeing in your learning brain is Nike shoes, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan causes the positive emotion. Nike shoes, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan causes the positive emotion. So when you finally go to the store and you have that wall of shoes, that you'll see in the stores, and you're looking and you go, which one should I buy? I don't know. Yeah, Air Jordans. I feel good about Air Jordans. And that's the way that these will work. So we'll close with just one more example because these were hilariously amazing.
Yo! This is Mars Blackman, and this is my main man, Michael Jordan. And this is a pair of Air Jordans from Nike. This is something you can buy. And this is a patented, vicious, high-flying, 360 slam dunk. This is something you cannot do. Let me repeat myself. This you can buy. You cannot do it. Can.
So once again, how often in this one commercial do they go, here's the shoes, here's Michael Jordan. Here are the shoes, here's Michael Jordan. Here's your neutral stimulus, here's your conditioned stimulus causing the conditioned response of positive emotions, changing the neutral stimulus to a conditioned stimulus. And once again, literally saying, you can buy these shoes, but you cannot buy this. All right, so again, that's just my little public service announcement, one more example of how classical conditioning works. But again, do not think that knowledge of this has now made you immune. You are just as susceptible, just like this was a highly effective ad campaign, even though they were saying the shoes have nothing to do with this success, and you can't buy what we're showing you, but you can buy the shoes. All right, so that's all I wanted to cover for today. Any final questions, comments, before we wrap it up? All right, so that is it. So hopefully next class, if all the makeup exams are done, we'll be returning the exams. But other than that, we are done for today.